I was all ready to. I was all ready to say, "Yeah, we're back," and I hear whispering.
Let's do that. Yeah, we're back. We're back. Hey guys.
So we are back again for the final day of the Holidaytime Spectacular. We're very excited to have
maybe for
our first guest
for
today.
the final day. No, sorry, I fucked that up. Final day.
We've got another couple of great speakers today. We're
Jason,
very excited about.
I'm
not jumping in yet. I'm just saying, I'm getting the excitement built up.
Look at that.
We've hung the stockings with care.
We're now waiting for Santa Claus.
It's coming soon. It's coming soon.
I don't know what we're doing, people.
These are actual decorations from my house. So, thanks everyone for joining us this evening.
Who do we have in the house? Leave us a comment. Let us know that you're here. Wave your hand. Leave a like. Make sure that the like button is working. So far, only 9 likes. What's going on, guys? What's going on?
You can do better.
You can do better. You can do better.
So I think we should jump right in.
Absolutely. Should we just introduce our guest for tonight?
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first guest of tonight's show is going to be the guys at Crilo.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Crilians. Hey. Good evening.
Nice to see you.
The pleasure, it's all ours. How are you guys?
Fine, really fine. This is going to be really fun, and we are really excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
No problem. We're very excited to see what you have for us today.
We're looking forward to your presentation. We have already had a glimpse, and I think that people are going to be blown away by the work that you have prepared. So you feel free to take the lead. You're going to share your screen. We're going to mute ourselves, and we're going to stop our video so that you won't have to see us. You'll just see the guys at Crilo.
Okay, let's get started. Share the sound of computer, yes. Optimize, okay, yes. And here we are. You can see my screen? I think yes. Okay, so we have a dense presentation today. So I want to show you many things that we did in the last couple of years. And I'm going to speak for both, for me and Lorena. And yeah, I like to say every time, in 2015 that we were invited in the T2 conference, it's like a family reunion. So I am really like to say, in a comfort zone now. So it's because we are going to have this kind of relaxed time to share the things that we did. So because I know that there are many friends that they are listening to. And so going to the agenda, the menu of the day, I want to show you this literally different things in many fields. So the first one is visual studies, is our approach to image making, you will see. And I hope to be able to show something unexpected, because every time a presentation starts for visualization company, the deal is to say, oh, what is our internal workflow? Now I want to show you something maybe more intimate in a certain way. I hope that will be, like to say, efficacy for you. And reason works in ArchViz, that is our main field, of course, our activity, principal activity, the research that we did parallel to the profession, and so on, are having to the main topics, that is the use of painting, illustration in our works, showing you some techniques, some insight, and are having to something that we never shown, we have never shown to the community. There is a video game that we did years ago, and then now we can present. And I'm happy to show you today. So for who doesn't know, for who don't know, the people who don't know about Atelier Crilo, I spent 2 words. We are a design duo. So we are two in the office, me and Lorena, and this is a long story, personal, and we are partner in life and in work. And yeah, we started in 2010, and in many fields like architects and graphic designers, we are curious of all the representation because we are passionate about all the forms of graphic languages. And here you can see our supervisor, there is Julia, the wonderful Scottish folk that we have. Sometimes she come here when we have meeting with clients. So I don't know if it's too busy today. And yeah, and when all the presentation starts in these days, we have seen many from CG Architect Awards, from the other 2 days of this spectacular event of T2. And every time the companies, they say how old they are, when they started. And yeah, we have a revelation here because yeah, we started in 1988 because when we met was that date. And if we assume that we started to create a duo, a company, that is our starting point. So I'm sorry, guys of D-Box, hey Matthew and Eric from Aura Lab and other things. We started before. We are pioneers in this industry. So just to make a laugh. And recognition. This is things that we are really proud because, like to say, like architects, we started to have consciousness about our work, our job in the visualization industry, starting from the recognition that other guys give us, because it was extremely important the day of D2 conference, in which we understood that our passion for representation, to make images the client asked to us, to give them, and became a job. When we like to say, we reached this consciousness, and this happening in the T2 because we understood the large community. We made so many friends that now we are cooperating with them already now. And it wasn't difficult to find some photo that was not of food or beer in that event, or the funny religion of the selfie stick here that was in the day, and really great. And I like to say that was our little introduction about Crilo. And yeah, visual studies, our approach. I want to show you something different. As I said, it's not a workflow, not a breakdown, because all in the industry, they know very well the processes. And so it's boring to me say, we started with client in this way and we arrived to the final feedback in this other way. On the contrary, maybe it's more interesting, I guess, to show you why our passion is. And in this case, the drawing are at the primary, they are always in our mind and in our hands, because here we are always surrounded every day by sketches, tailgates, and pencil and other instrument and tools for drawings. And yeah, the travel are really important, because sometimes we had sensation, I like to say, things that remember, that recall, they are recalling other things. So the play of deja vu, like to say, in which you say something that recall you something else. And when we lost in Venice, the first days that we gave lessons there, and we had the fortune to be lecturer in Venice every year. And when we get lost and we found this kind of places like the one you have in the middle, when we found wine and good people and that red of the Chiqueto area, or that blue, that sensation. It's something that when Lorena started to sketch this kind of hole, this kind of calle, as it's called, is named in Venice, we recall that sensation, this blue of Venice that we have in the eyes every time that we came. It's I think the things that we like of that place, in which the scattering of light and this kind of not banal, but like to say, curious situation with the water and the short distance of the building, it creates this kind of reverberation of blue. And this is no photo of beautiful photo things that we like, because we have a good level of photography, because we are very high demanded in photography. We like to create photo and a good stuff, but they are only memories that I want to show you, just for understanding how the process sometimes in which we are involved starts from drawings, like in this case, from photos, from memories, as all you know, and those are our inspiration. For example, sometimes we started to study digital painting from starting with color and texture brush strokes, because we are trying on the iPad and then in Procreate or in Cintiq, and we are trying some technique for students or for ourselves. And then this kind of things we try to replicate in the post process of the images. And for example, there are many visualizations of the coastline that we did in CG, in computer graphics. They remember me in some way the wonderful images by Luigi Ghirri. There is a master of photography. If you don't know, you should, because also the book about Ghirri, the lesson he gave in Reggio Emilia University is the core of the most famous book, The Lessons of Photography. And when we started, we had the occasion and the fortune to show and to approach a coastline for the visualization for our clients. The first reference that I put in the mood board that we created at the beginning was Ghirri. And in a certain way, I can see that here there's a lot of Ghirri, this kind of impression of the sky, the sad color. At the end, when I was satisfied with the images, and Lorena too, we look at the previous images of Ghirri, and we like to say we've seen a sort of coherence unconsciously. We did the work, the job. And these are places near to us, because we are in Rome, and it's really a fortune for us. But when we look at the city after 2 decades that we are here, I like to say it's not about the places the most famous places in the world for tourism or other. It's not about Colosseum, for example, or when you go in the center of Rome, but we are trying to discover places that are in the countryside or near to us, that we are in San Giovanni. Here, for example, there's the Parco of Acquedotti. And people run here in Rome. Imagine when you are in front of this monster, monumental buildings that are you are alone in front of them. This is something that in a certain way it's impossible to not remember when you approach an image, a scenario, a vegetation, because mainly when we create images like this one, many clients, they say, oh, remember me something that is really Mediterranean like approach, or is your vegetation that are words of clients are very near to that kind of wild scenario that I remember in Rome and in Villa Borghese, for example. And to be honest, also in the center of Rome, because there are so many wild things and situations here with this administration that you have to not to go so far from the center. And this is, for example, Parco della Caffarella, that when we want to have some relaxed moment, we with Lorena, we go there, and we have this beautiful landscape in which you are alone, people in front of you at distance of kilometers. And just to say that we want that when we have to study and to stay sticky to the reference of the vegetation, we started also to improve our knowledge about species. we became a sort of landscape designer unconsciously, because we started to recreate by ourselves many of the beauty of this vegetation, Roman and Latium vegetation. In fact, for that kind of pine, it is like a choral work from years and years that we recreated procedurally, but every time was not so beautiful as the ones that we have in front of us any day. And so we started to recreate by ourselves. And here there is a magical place near to the countryside. You can see Roma from the outside. And that was one of the funny moments that we had in the last couple of months. And it was a relaxing time. And when I saw the Lorena's painting about weeks ago, that was not intentional. I always recognize the places, and I say, "Hey, it's totally in that part. The sunset, you remember me, the colors, it's incredibly, because Lorena, she was smiling in front of that. We were like two idiots in front of that spectacular sunset in that moment. So in some way, it remained in our mind. And when you have this kind of beautiful images or monuments and vegetation in front of you every day, in some way, when you recall to the mind drawing or creating sketches or images in computer graphics, this kind of scenario is always present. It's impossible that you are not oriented or influenced by this city. And yeah, we arrived to, like to say, another another area, another experimentation in which we are involved. Because only now, after 2 decades, we are started to see at the historical monuments, because we sketched a lot with students by ourselves in the city, like city sketcher, or we created painting or many situations, but always residual, because we love a lot. Gas station, you will see train stations, but never we entered in relationship with this kind of super monster that we have, monster in the Latin sense of the meaning. And because they are so well represented by every artist he came in Rome, that it's hard to say something more. So the idea and the deal is to say something different and representing the pantheon that you see here. And I switch to the other category, recent works, commissioned images. I want to show you rapidly with few words our last couple of years in the industry, and many other things that we created, to be honest, we can show, and there are many things that we are proud and satisfied. So these are the images that I can show you, and I go without commenting it. You can recognize maybe this kind of Roman environment in the vegetation again, or other solution for the lighting. This is the most large arena never built in Europe. It was celebrated by last month by a concert in September, I remember well, from Luciano Ligabue. There is a famous singer, a good guy, I can say. I don't like his music, but it's not like a Bruce Springsteen, but in Italy it's considered like a big hit. I like alternative music, to be honest. And yeah, another scenario of snow, another approach to the landscape, this time very different from our usual environment in ArcFit's landscape creation. And these are images that we like a lot, because the client asked it to a Mediterranean scenario, also here that we are in Istrian Peninsula, for a land hotel, an hotel inside the landscape, of course. And to be honest, many times client asked to us to have a clear sky, to have this kind of images. There are solar, sunny days, and Sometimes we create for ourselves studies in which we push the boundaries with other kind of scenarios, dark skies or cinematic images. But in our practice with clients, the most required one is always the clear sky for us. So I'm always searching something different, and I hope that some client sometime in the future will ask for, hey, I want to a dark, very dark sky and a cinematic image. We are waiting for you. And yeah, that's our interior of real estate in Greece and so on. And I want to speak about a little bit of research. This is a large part of our activity and parallel to the professional one. And we started, like to say, to teach and to have a PhD research and continuing our passion and like scholars, I can say. And we're very fortunate because when you have to teach someone, you have to be clear for yourself. So that is the part that I like. Because I always created research for myself in technical stuff, in critical views, in visual studies, in cinema. And I had always many notes, writings that never published. And so I started, and Lorena too, because we did two separate researches and we teach all together sometime in the same courses, but also in different courses. And this privilege, like to say, we arrived to create a sort of thematic parallel to the professional activity that we have. Here I have a small video of a PhD research by Lorena about lighting, how to model the lighting inside the visualization task. There is something that I have to spend a few words about it, that for the visualization community, it could be banal. But I can say that when you speak, when you talk about these topics with scholars, professors in the academic environment, with students of architecture, they're not aware of the industry is, how the industry works, and how the visualization artist is acting, is playing his role. And so technique, role, visual studies, all the stuff is not there's no literature, for example. So it was difficult to find something for a scientific researcher that was not on the internet or online or by voice. So many of these topics are in the center of our mind. And from the outside, what we are doing is to create, I can say, better clients for the future, because the architect, when he starts his studies, is like a movie director, an orchestra director. He knows about structure, framework, about design, about many areas, and not about visualization. So to better interact with future companies, or because he wants to start a career in the visualization industry, to have an insight of what is the industry now, to monitor and to understand is crucial. So I show the video. microphone. And as you can see here, there is a study of lighting in which we explain to, as usual, as I said, to students and to other people, that the role of the visualizer is to create this relationship with photography, matching the background, creating a lighting approach that is orienting the shape. There is no missing something, because as you can see here, when you start with studying the light, the idea is to create efficacy in showing this building, because and the building is from small architect, I have to remember, because they are so kind, and they were so kind to give us all the material to start the study. They were so happy to see the outcome at the end. And if you compare this photo here on the right, they are from the rendering using like a sort of photographic approach in a virtual set. If you look at the real photo of the maquette, you can see that they were missing many parts of the building of the wonderful skylight. This is a building particular because there is no artificial lighting. It's only a chapel in Almodena in a wonderful landscape. So it's very particular for the lighting approach. And we started to talk about in lecture, to write a lot, and to create a sort of comprehension of this kind of thematic. And in drawing and in computer graphics, and rendering is the word that I like, because it's, I would say, is the tradition of the perspective artist. Also to talk about taxonomy sometime. I hear about, I heard that many visualizers, they use words like renderista or renderman or perspectivist or delineator in US or many other. Also about the CG artist and his role and his consciousness. These are large topics to discuss and to debate. And this is from our recent article for the graphical language and for the concept of déjà vu. So when something recalls you something else. And for example, just to have fun, I want to underline the wonderful job of Manuele Fior. There is an Italian previous architect and now novelist, graphic novelist. And to be honest, now in Italy, there is a sort of renaissance of the graphical novel, because we have so many, and that they started in French and now they came back in Italy. Look at GP, for example, or Critone, Serio, what many names, or Bevilacqua, or and here Manuele Fior remember about the history of architecture, because you can see on the left in the up part of this slide Masieri House. There is a house designed from Wright, by Wright, Frank Lloyd Wright, never built, as many other buildings in Venice and in Venezia. And Celestia is the name that Manuele Fior has chosen for to call his imaginary city, but at the end is Venice. And used Annie's house, this time designed by Wright. And in another graphic book, The Variation Orsay, the museum in French, designed by the Italian architect Greco, that is very famous, except for the fact that you can see here the reconstruction in the drawing, so it's really near to the reality. But using the gouache technique, he was inspired to Degas painting style. So it's a reminder of the technique and of the physical places inside the same book, and a sort of experimental graphical language itself. Or here, for example, Niei, Tsutomu Niei, there's very famous manga artist that we like. And he was an architect too, because he started in New York in construction buildings to understand how the steel frame, the piping work for taller buildings and towers. And as you can see here, if I don't say what is Niei and what is Libius Wood's drawing, you can recognize. And because it's a direct recalling quote about Libius drawings. And sometimes the A recall to other typical and inspirational drawings of architecture. Here you can say Piranesi, for example, not only for the technique that is very near the manga to the incisione, but to engraving, but also because the staircase is typical from the Carceri, or from Libeskin's drawings, for example, in which, for example, Niei called a series of his books micromegas, biomegas, and Daniel Libeskin drawings is micromegas, the Termes of Heraclitus. In Architectural Association, he did this wonderful series of drawings in London. And here there is a map, a conceptual map that I always use, and it's about hours to explain every time to go in depth. But just to say, the architecture visualization is only a little piece of the puzzle. And it arrived in the 90s when all the 3D animation stuff worked on the main topics of animation, many frames, to understand techniques, to understand algorithms, and to say, and to give all the achievement of the computer graphics from the 40s and the 50s to bring to the next level in the animation. And paintings in special effects, there is another parallel tradition that starts at the beginning of the century, and it arrives in the digital mirror painting that now all we use in architecture and in visualization, but it was from cinema. It's the cinema that, to compare to the realism, is the main topics every time. And sometimes people like to say, move in the industry without consciousness about what was before, without know all the beautiful works, for example, the first companies by D-Box, by Neoscape, by Aurora Lab, or Luxicon then, or Mir, and they start without any consciousness. We make images and so on. Sometimes I think it's worthy and valuable also for the visualizer too, to know a little bit in depth. And there's other things about our research, the two books that we built together, and the Immagine Costruita is like to translate the built image, the formation, the role and the technique of the CG artist, and many of you, know, because I asked you the permission, are inside this research. And also for Lorena, there is modeling the light to visualize the relationship with visual arts. And that we are in the teaching part, in which we are so proud, because we started to teach visualization, pure visualization, so technical stuff, together with the critical approach, just 1 year ago. And these are work by students that they received only 20 hours, that when you teach, you have 20 hours, but at the end, the core business is about 6, 7, because there are the reviews, there are the other activities that you have to follow. So we were very, very surprised by the outcome. They are very professional in a certain way. And this is a course that we did for ANT, Academy of Art and Technology. And they were so proud too of the student result outcome that they involved us in a master program that we are coordinating with a bunch of other dear friends, and that Lorena, she's the director from this year. And so we will be another adventure in this kind of visual studies, and to learn and to teach something to someone. And now, to the 4 parts, I want to show you something in which there is a real integration of painting and post-process. Because when I remember when in the other T2 challenge, in which we have a live streaming, Mike Golden said to us, hey Mike, the presentation of the first day of this event was wonderful, so interactive, but literally wonderful. I totally agree. We are totally agree with you when you say that the best practice, daily practice, 15-20 minutes is to be done. And when you say if we use it in some way in our work, depending, I said no. And it's true for the clients, but then I remember that for our speculative project, we had a large painting process integrated into it. So for this reason, I put these images. They are from 2015, so there are many, many imperfections, troubles, and things that now we should do in different way. But how to say? I go rapidly over that because that was the occasion in which I experimented with the painting inside the 3D painting. So we used watercolor brushes to paint inside the 3D viewport, and that was fun. And that's the reason of this painterly approach and style of these images. And yeah, I have a little movie of it. Oh, sorry. Because I want to unmute the audio before to start with the movie. Okay, I open the microphone, and I like to say, in the movies we have already seen, there was the presence of many post-process, and the coherence with the aerial perspective, the glows on the lighting, and the other things, the other stuff was all, like to say, painted in a certain way. And this is the link to speak about chiaroscuro techniques. And we brought here three easy things that we can say technique. There are methods at the end in which, for example, in this series of drawings, we started with the chiaroscuro, drawn, sketched directly in the paper. And as you can see, the chiaroscuro is the shading is embodied in the drawing itself, and then the color is gradually added in overlay. And this is a way in which many times, for example, we create the post process for the archviz images at the same way. Or, for example, a second approach could be to create an additive mixing of the color. So the sketch, the initial sketch here is a pure outline, and the color coming from light this time to the dark part in terms of gamut is going to be overlaid. And there's a third one. There's the maybe the process that we like a lot in this period, because it's also used in the cinema from photography directors, no? The light plants, the plants of light. And in this case, I have a video to show you after this. We started from the dark area. So exactly like in a carboncino, a charcoal technique, identifying the light plants, and then we subtracted the color. And the focal point, of course, is the more saturated, the more saturated point that we lighted up. And so I have a little movie to show you. Okay, and that was for fun to editing this kind of making of. And another things that we use a lot also in the visualizations, and at the end you will see in the game that we created how those techniques are fused together. Here, for example, there is the color scheme. So like a color script in the concept art work. We used to like to say to acting with complementary colors to maximize the contrast. This is notorious, but at the same time, because when you start with colors that are totally absurd for some way, if you take singularly, individually, when you use the complementary stuff or the triadic, for example, or the other stuff that was very notorious in the Renaissance painting, you are surprised by the possibilities and from the outcome. For example, here, that red of the Cichetto area, you remember in the Venice illustration on the left, is totally in disharmony to the blue, but using exactly the complementary scheme or the triadic scheme or the split complementary, so recreating exactly what the painters they know, you are able to put together things literally so different, so in contrast. And for example, this is the way in which Lorena created these wonderful illustrations, in which if you look exactly at the same, at the single colors, and you imagine to use in another image, it is surprisingly in harmony. And it's a way in which we want to act also for the visualization. We are, like to say, waiting for the right client to make this kind of style. And I hope in the future we will come to this outcome together with some commission image. And this is Santa Maria Novella, for example, in Florence. It's a wonderful train station, or like this one that is in Bologna. These are the spaces that I said before of transit, residual spaces sometimes, like the gas station that I'm going to show you. I have another little movie here. Okay, and this is the thematic of the runaway, the airplane. Or, hey, Jason and Fabio, this is an industrial area in Vienna, so maybe you should recognize. Or a caravan in a nowhere land, in somewhere in the US, and so on. And the first challenge that I want to show you again, in a small version, of course, because we created some other material for another lecture, and I want to show you something that is related to the painting stuff. This is the comic strip, of course, and the final one But here we put in evidence the process. Maybe it's more interesting to look at it in relation to the final one. Exactly like Ferris, we created the framing and the rendering in computer graphics like the hand drawing, but here you can see the work of overpainting that we did. I have another slide which is more clear. In the chiaroscuro technique that we used, we recreated this painting, this stroke, this impression of graphite or charcoal, carboncino, and we used it to create these contrasts in local values to arrive from the pure dark to the other enlightened parts. But if you look here, you can see exactly what is the overpainting stuff in the middle and related to the pure clay render. And you can see just an image in the strokes at the end. And fixing and fusing together the two contributes, render and post-processing painting, we have the final one. I split also the other image that here is more evident work with the strokes. That is following exactly the brighter parts, the lighting accent on the lesene and the other part of the building. So, and we arrived to the final part, and I need the other 5 minutes, I think. This is a work that we showed the first time, and it is not over our website and the other stuff that we have online, and it's a video game map. It was 4 or 5 months of work that involved many other figures. We worked together with a dear friend and 3D generalist, Alberto Plasi, that now is in Maxon Computer. And there were illustrator, an art director, Ero Perfido, and logic for the gaming, and many figures dedicated to this, to the creation of this game. And we were responsible for the 3D environment, for the creation of the location of the final maps that you can see here. It was a large image in terms of pixels dimension, because every location, every portion is explorable, and you have to zoom on it. And those are the single locations that we studied individually, and in which we were responsible also of the creation, sometimes from scratch, sometimes from other references, of this really funny models, because at the end we had a lot of fun. And differently from the architecture that, you know, as visualizer of architecture, you have many compromise with the client, with the building itself. Here, we were totally free. And the art director pushed the boundary to say, yeah, we have to say more, we have to create a sort of style that is different from the other ones. So we were very fond of it. And 42 locations studied individually and with procedural modeling, procedurally created, and starting each one to study the lighting from the clay rendering and arriving to the texture. Also, the process to be approved was really art in terms of we started with every single location to be lighted up and approbation, then the texturing and approbation, and going forward in this way. And as you can see here, we recreated the texture, painting over it to avoid this kind of rendering and pure rendering style, and to create something more funny, also smooth, and in terms of gaming approach. And we studied also the local contrast through the black and white every time. We put it in black and white to see at a distance if the stations, they work well with the different perception that you have from mobile, from large screen, and from the phone. So the idea was also to control how they look at a distance, and for us was also like a sort of timing, because every time, as you can see here, we painted or we closed the black and white, it means that we put aside that part of the job. And this is funny, because to create this world, we used a forced perspective. So when we started with the first studies on the equatorial line, you had to expect that buildings are exactly looked from the top, and you have a 90 degrees vision that is natural in terms of physics of vision, but the client he says no, I want to say more. So we have to force it in perspective, like in an anamorphosis in Italian, to show in the angle vision of this kind of perspective all the equatorial part comprehensible. And this deformation was the last thing that I wanted to show you. And we got to the end. So there's another slide with a little movie, and then we are ready to talk with Jason and the Q&A session, and Fabio too. Okay, finished. And here we are. Fabio and Jason, can you hear me? Maybe there is some delay in the translation, in the communication. Okay. I stopped to share the screen. Okay.
And let's go to gallery.
Now you can see.
There you go.
There we go.
Whoa.
That was an amazing presentation.
I'm very happy that you guys took the time to do this. It was fantastic. We were looking at the comments on YouTube as they were coming in, and it seems like people at home, they also enjoyed it. So I'm very happy that we managed to make this happen. What is your feeling? What is your sensation about this thing?
Oh no, I can say that is a family reunion. So I see many positive comments by dear friends, and yeah, there is an upbeat spirit. So thank you guys for all the comments. I want to see better after this talk, and yeah.
I'm very happy, and I'm happy that those who were watching from home, they also enjoyed it. Let's see if there are some questions coming in for you.
Okay.
We are slightly above overtime, but that's okay. The first question I would like to ask myself: was it difficult for you to make the transition, because you are trained as architects and you have started out with architectural visualization as part of the stuff that you were doing, to make the transition into video game design, set design, and so on and so forth?
No, it was really natural and fun, because at the end we worked in many other industries, also for the cinema. One time I have to tell you, with posters and images like key art, and yeah, I think there's more difficulty in architecture, to be honest, to create single images of architecture with the same intensity of the video game, because in the video game you are free to push the boundaries and to experiment. Not so much like in the architecture. I would like to be free to explore sometime.
Good. I remember we were having this conversation when we met in Roma,
Yeah.
Beautiful city, beautiful drinks, great food. All right, if there are no more any questions, Jason, do you have
No.
any question?
No, I just wanted to say that I appreciate so much your approach to visualization, because it's such a hands-on approach, which you do not see very often, and a very artistic approach. And I just wanted to say that as a comment. It's not a question. There's no question.
Oh, no. Thanks.
So yeah, thank you for joining us and for making the presentation. It was really amazing.
Thanks to you guys.
Guys,
And now I'm excited to see the next speaker too.
because it's a secret. Guys, we're going to take a very short break. We're going to queue up the next speaker. You don't go anywhere so that we can say goodbye to you. Give us a few minutes, stay online. We will be back with the next speaker. Thanks a lot again to the guys from Crilo. This was an amazing presentation, and we'll talk in a second.
Yep, we'll be back.
Okay. Bye.
And we're glitching back. Are we?
There we go.
Hey, we're back. Oh, ho, ho, we're back. All right, Jason.
I just
guess
knocked
that,
my headphones out. Hold on.
I guess that those who are watching from home, they don't have time for you and I. They just want to know who the next speaker is.
I say let's just jump in.
Are we ready to announce the next speaker?
Yes.
Drum roll, please. Banger, banger, banger.
And
Ioanna from Ink is here with us tonight. You can unmute yourself now. No. Technical difficulties.
we'll give you a second to work on that. But in the meantime, how did everyone enjoy the first talk today? We'd like to know. There we go.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah, but you can probably hear yourself as well.
No, I think it's fine. I think it's fine.
Just because I think my headphones are a bit messed up, so I'm sorry guys.
It's
but you have
fine.
to do with me.
It's fine. We're going to leave you the stage. So we're
Okay.
going to mute ourselves and we're going to switch off our audio. You take the stage, have fun,
Thank
and we'll see you at the end of this.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
We are very happy that you're here. No need to thank us. We thank you.
I will thank you anyway. Okay. I'm gonna share my screen now. There you go. And
It's off now.
ooh, that should be in. Hello everyone and welcome to the Christmas D2 show. I just wanted to thank Fabio and Jason for doing this and like for being such a strong stone in the community and for everything that you're doing. Thank you for inviting Ink. It's actually it's a great honor for us. And also I wanted to thank you specifically for being part of our monthly 3S London meetups because it's quite special for you to be there as well. So who am I? I'm just going to present quickly myself and then I'll move on. I'm Ioanna and I'm a 3D artist at Ink. And today I am going to speak about what makes Ink special in my eyes and what do we think and believe our work, how do we think our work makes it special and it stands out, and what creative approaches we take on our
Your audio went off. All right.
Am
Now
I
it
back?
seems, yes,
It's back.
It seems that it's back.
presentation again.
We won't interrupt you.
When was the point that you lost me? Because I don't know where to repeat. Anyway, I'll just start again from. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. So the aim of the presentation is to give you a bit of an insight of what it is to work and to be in a creative environment and creative studio, and how do we approach our work and what creative solutions we get with our everyday job, and what we think and believe makes us stand out and makes our work stand out. And if I manage to kind of inspire and inform people a little bit by the end of this presentation, it's going to be amazing. So I hope you enjoy this. I'm going to quickly share this as telling you why, how, and what being our main principles of how we approach our work. And I will cover this later on. But first, I'm going to start with just saying a few words about myself and what my journey is, because I think it's quite fascinating how I ended up working at Ink and now doing presentation about all the cool work the studio is doing. It's quite an honor for me as well. So I started with traditional art. Basically, I was a very impatient kid who couldn't really stand. At one point, I was like almost having those amounts of energy. So my mom signed me up for a drawing class. And then the drawing became my actual passion and everything I believe in. So kind of art drawing became like a big thing for me. And then I watched tango when I was like about 16, and I was like, oh my God, so people actually create really cool work. And I got into the film so much that I started drawing frame by frame every single scene that I really liked. And then, so, like, by accident, I discovered this film, The Pixar Story, which really changed my life, because it introduced me to animation in 3D and like a completely new world. And I was very fascinated. And then I realized that actually people can do CGI in 3D and animation for like a living, for a job, which I couldn't think about before that, because in Bulgaria it wasn't like very popular people to study something like that. So I went to university, graduated computer animation successfully, and in this event back in 2016, I met Kamen, and I started working at Ink after that, which was like super cool because I couldn't really expect to find someone in Bulgaria in a studio with a studio in London that I can actually join, and it happened to be Ink, and then since then I'm part of Ink, and it's really been a great journey for me. What do I do? I help some of the communities in the industry. I'm part of 3ds London, and I'm part of London SIGGRAPH, which is like, it's amazing because all the people you see in these pictures are so passionate and so inspiring, and they contribute so much for this industry, and it's such a great honor to be among them. Every time we have a meeting, it's like, it's amazing because you inspire each other, you share ideas, you just try to, and it's completely volunteering. We do that because we're passionate, because we want to give other people the knowledge or the information that those things exist, and like spread the word about the industry. So to escape from like my I guess to a computer, but to escape from the computer and like move to another device, which is my tablet, I do a lot of drawing, and I kind of rediscovered this recently in the quiet times of the lockdown and the whole this year being like a bit of grim one. I decided to go back to drawing and like inspire myself and like try to get back to get my creativity back. So I start drawing again and like start exploring what's in my mind, and like all those things that I imagine, I try to like represent them. So I do drawings, and I set myself some kind of challenges to do those weird stuffs and animations, to explore like different software, because I mainly use 3ds Max, but I really like cinema. So I'm kind of setting myself to like, explore different software because it might be very useful. And in the studio, we also work with cinema. So I think it's kind of important to do these small tests, experiments outside work to continue growing and developing yourself. So enough about me. I want to talk about Ink and what is Ink for me and what we do here, which is like amazing. And I'm going to start with quickly introducing the company and what we believe in and what we think is makes us special, basically. So Ink is a creative studio based in London. And what do? We do a lot of film and animation. We also do VR. We do like we work across around the really different areas, which is amazing. So we have a great variety of work in the studio, and I'm gonna share with you what is the team driven by and what we believe in. We basically make art, which is great. We click the button and then the art is made. We make cool work. But we mainly believe in when the technical means beautiful, which means that we're very passionate about technology, and we really like all the aspects of it. Like either it's a new electric vehicle, either it's a new smartwatch, or like a smart lamp. We believe that every piece of technology has its beauty, and with our work, we try to represent that beauty. So basically, we approach every single project that we have with a lot of passion, because every single project that we have on board is quite special for us. So we try to craft every work. So for us, it's it doesn't matter how mundane something is. We get it on board. We get it with passion. We're creative. We do the thinking behind it, and then we deliver it to the world. So we believe in technology, and I think everyone in the studio is quite passionate about technology. I mean, I know everyone is very passionate about technology, and this is what makes us actually, what unites us and what makes us move forward and drives our creative thinking. And yeah. Oh, I also wanted to say that obviously people know that the studio, well, or people don't know, I don't know. The studio started as a architectural viz, but we, with our passion evolving and the studio growing, we found ourselves being involved in different areas and like different work. So we kind of work in across all those aspects. So we still do architectural bits, but we mainly do now advertising and product and design, and we do projects from our hearts, which is like workshop projects. We kind of we're versatile in the areas we work, and this is what I really like about Ink, is that whatever you're interested in, there will be an aspect from the work that you would really love doing, which is like either is a VR, either is like a cool post-production. We work with NASA, we work with like Aston Martin, we mainly work with like really big brands, which is insane. It's amazing. But yeah, we are quite versatile in terms of what work we produce, and I am really, really happy because it's basically every day is fun, and you discover something different every day. And we have a lot of great chats about like design, about product, about what's the beauty behind everything, basically every single project that we have. So I wanted to share with you today a couple of our recent work, but I'm not gonna focus on everything. But some of the projects I'm gonna be diving into them more, just because I felt like there is a couple of special things that I wanted to share with the audience that I can actually enrich people a little bit and maybe gives a bit of insights of how we do stuff and what's the creative thinking, because I believe there was actually a big discussion in the studio about like seeing, like opening Behance and seeing all those beautiful, beautiful projects, and everything is so nice and everything's so realistic and everything is like, everything is just amazing these days because people do know how to use their softwares and they know how to produce like beautiful work. But for us, what makes a work special is the idea behind the project. So we do a lot of thinking and a lot of creative, and I think this is quite special, and I really wanted to share that with you today because I really, being among like a team that is really made of people who are passionate about the work they do and they're really highly creative and highly skilled, is amazing. So yeah, so I wanted to give you that feeling that I have to you and to the audience today by sharing this work. I'm gonna start with Rivian, which is like one of our recent projects that we completed. So it's quite interesting because it's one of the first configurators that we have. The project is quite special because it came from one of our workshop projects, the plain bodies. So the client saw our plain bodies work and they really liked it. So for the last 2 years, we've been communicating with the client, and they wanted to do a configurator, but they really liked our images. So we were thinking, oh, how can this can be kind of combined? So finally, we got involved in the projects and we took it on board, and we yeah, so we decided to approach this configurator in a way that is more like art and more like, oh, the car is the hero, is the sculpture. It's a very minimalistic kind of world, but also it's interesting, it's engaging, it's it's like more piece of art than just the configurator, because I believe that from these images, you can see how crafted everything is in the scene and how beautiful and interesting it is. And for a job like that, there was a lot of variations. When imagine this is a configurator that you can change the height of the colors of the car, the wheels of the car, and then the car is changing in terms of height depending on what wheels you've chosen. There is a lot of options, and then we have the interiors. So it was quite a really big job, but it was also really interesting because everything was approached in a way like, oh, this is just a sculpture and the car is like the hero, it needs to look really nice. And what is special about that is the fact that we it's really nice. And the fact that we really yeah, I'm sorry. The fact that we really crafted it from the beginning to an end, and the fact that it's a technology, it's a electric vehicle that hasn't been, hasn't been produced before by this company. It's their first vehicle. So for us, this was like quite of a very exciting moment, because okay, we can help them. We can be part of all this, like a big moment for them. It was another interesting thing during this project is because for us to review the work, to send them to have feedback, it was quite of a tedious process with dealing with so much variation. So what we did was making this decision to build our own platform and put everything work in progress there, so the client can review it real time, which was like extremely handy for us and for them as well. And it worked pretty well. These are some of the interiors, and you can see how it works in the configurator. It's the configurator's out, so everyone who is interested can go and like take a look. It's pretty awesome, I could say. Yeah, so I'll jump on the next project because I have a lot of things to share with you. Our next project is one of the latest projects of the retouched and CG team as well. We worked with a photographer and Maserati design team to help the brand to reinvent and rebrand the brand in a way, having those really beautiful photographs and being taken on board to be retouched and made like even look more beautiful. The photographer that we work with, Amos, he has a really bold and like really distinctive kind of style. So the photography was amazing. When we received it, it was amazing. But we kind of wanted to push it to the limits and to get the best out of it, to create those bold and beautiful images, which are like amazing. And when you see them on screen, like completed, they're just so beautiful. So basically, what happened was that we had the data of the car, and one of our CG artists recreated the images in CG, and they looked pretty beautiful. So there was like a discussion in the studio, like, okay, so should we use the photography and make it look like CG, or should we use the CG and make it like incorporate the photography on it? So it was a bit like, now we can do all of that. So what should we do? So basically, as the photography looked quite nice, we decided to approach the project in a way that you can still feel it's photography, but it's super clean and almost look like a render. So when you stop and look at it, you see the details, but you're like, oh, is it CG or is it photography? And it's also really beautiful, and you don't know. So this is the beauty of like being versatile in the studio, that you have all those tools that you can play around and create something that you don't really know either it's CG or it's not. And it's really beautiful. It really fits the studio style well, and it's also quite different because you can see I think it's done with our help, but also it's kind of different because it's very colorful, it's very bold, which is like something unusual, but it's something that we really appreciate. I just skim through the photos, they're really nice. Yeah, and I'm gonna dive into another automotive project that we did recently. I think last year, it was completed last year with Polestar. A set of images that are extremely special and extremely beautiful because the car is amazing. And again, it's like a new piece of technology that we really wanted to be part of, but it also, the concept and the way that was done, the way it was done, it's quite special as well. Well, the project became a big thing for the studio because it's also, again, using all those skills everyone in the studio have. Like the retouch team did an insanely amazing job, and then the CG team did an amazing job, and like everyone here was involved, and it was like very nice and very inspiring to see something like this and this scale to actually come to life. So the brief was like, it wasn't actually the brief, like the creative behind it was that we wanted to make something that is from a fantasy world, but it's almost like a human world, but it's not a human world. It's like something in between the alien world, but it's a modern, and it's like the world of tomorrow almost. So as a location, the DDP building in Seoul, the South Korea, was chosen. So the Zaha Hadid building, which is like amazing. It's like looking like a massive alien spaceship. So that was the location where the team went, and it was Dave was on location, and Benedict Redgrove, who we work with as a photographer, and they had this vision and idea of having the car into like an environment that is almost like non-existent, but it's still something that exists, you know, like something abstract but not really. So they went to that very special location for the very special car, and they did the recce, and they found a really beautiful place to where the car should be shot, and well, how it could be done. And it was amazing because there were like around 50 people on set, and we obviously didn't have a car because having a car means that you have a lot of limitation. So we used just that box that you can see on the image as a reference for like scale and orientation and how the car could be positioned. But basically what the team was doing was like shooting different images, and then going back after the shots and like putting an actual 3D car into the environment and seeing how those layouts work. So then the client who was also on set could also like review them, and they can comment. So the creative was happening on the go as well, although people had like the vision. But it was really interesting because having this kind of freedom to just have the building and imagine everything, well, sounds quite easy, but it's also like an insane job. We had this we had basically the crumble to get the HDRI reflections right. We had the cube for scale and position reference, and we had the lizard cube for HDRI capture. And we had this because it was also quite a tight shoot. It had to be done in a few days, and everything was like happening on the go, as I said. And in order to capture the light exactly as it is when the image is shot, you need to be quick with making these HDRIs. So basically we had this equipment, which is like quite cool. It does like everything on the go. It's very optimized, and it's pretty insane. It's amazing. And then you get the whole HDRI set with one go. Yeah, so as I mentioned, the team was using KeyShot to get all the images right. So they were shooting, and then they were getting like low res JPEGs, using them to create the layout in KeyShot, just positioning the car, thinking like of angle, if it's good, if it looks nice. So they were sending them back on site to the London studio to do like a quick retouch on top, and then sending it to the client to review them, approve them, and move forward with the project. So it was quite a very tight deadline, and not deadline, but quite a tight schedule for the whole project, because it was like fast paced. It was very like dynamic in terms of how was the work done as well. It was a lot of people involved, so it has to be, you know, it had to be done correctly, but also quickly. So we had a lot of direction from the art director and the photographer, but you can see on these images how the backplate was looking and how much cleaned up was actually done. Well, the one thing about like this location is it's obviously not made for cars to be in there. It's made for people to be on the to be on in there. But what we wanted to do is like to get this illusion of that is the space where the car can park and like have a story behind it, almost like, oh, the car is picking up from the airport, or picking up someone from the airport, or like waiting, just being released, and like just, you know, it's like a lot of concepts that you can have in mind when you're seeing like the final images. But what we wanted to do is like almost cheat the scale, and like kind of lose the reality, but still make it look real, which is quite difficult. So as I said, we didn't really have the car on set. So the car was completely CGI. We had the data from Polestar, and it was all placed on in the backgrounds. But all we did was render the car and used all the passes. So you can see how it was structured on the Photoshop files. You have the masks, you have the glare, you have the car as a separate render, and then you have the reflections, the refractions, you have the specular, the diffuse. You use all those passes that you have like the most control of the car. And basically we were using the HDRIs that we captured on set, but also they were as well graded, because when you grade the environment so much, and when you do so much retouching on the environment to lose that sense of where it is in the world, in the physical world, you have to obviously match the lighting, the reflections, and everything. So the HDRI had to be graded as well on top. Yeah, so what we did was basically replace the floor as well, so we can lose that sense of scale. So you can think, oh yeah, the place of the car is actually there. And it was very interesting, because there was a lot of discussion about, oh, does it look real? Does it not look real? And it was like, you know, kind of getting your guts to speak about like, oh, how do you feel about, is it like a gut feeling? Does it feel real? Does it not feel real? You had to decide, with like the whole creative people around you just had to decide what looks good and what doesn't look good, because basically for art there is no rules. Everything is subjective, isn't it? So at the end we kind of we got this really really beautiful images that you can see on our website, that they look almost, they look real. You know, there is like the element of art and really crafted environment, but it's also like you feel that, oh yeah, this exists and it's there, it's somewhere, but you don't know where it is, but it's still really beautiful and really clean. So there was a lot of cleanup from the retouch team, and there was a lot of effort from the CGI team to make those images beautiful. But I think the effort was worth it, because they look incredible. And if you want to see them, go on the website. They are there. You can see the whole set of images. It's amazing. And they're also on the Polestar's website as well, so you can enjoy them there. And I think I'm going to move to our next section, which is basically the product and design section, because I have quite a lot to cover. We recently collaborated with Tobias Grau, which they're a really cool company, and so for the launch of their new product, which is called Team, so it's a set of lamps and lights that are really cool and smart, and they're created for like a office environment. The film we did, I won't play it because it's quite long, it's 4 minutes long, but it was basically combining CGI animations and live action, and it was an immense collaboration between us and them. We were directing the CGI animations, and they were in charge of like producing the live action. So it was like a great collaboration between both of us. Which was really interesting, because when it's live action is involved, it's kind of getting to the next level of like complexity. It's also really nice because they're quite creative. So they were like this vision of, oh, having those playful animations within the film to just make it more engaging. And as you can see here, it's quite abstract, but it's also quite literal. So it's really beautiful. It's really interesting, and those playful and like mesmerizing motions are quite unique. Yeah. So the project I wanted to dive into more is Huami and Amazfit. Actually, that was a film done for them to launch their smartwatch. And we completed this project, I think, last year, and it was, for me, that is one of the most beautiful animations that we've done. It's amazing, and the feeling that you get when you actually see that and see the whole film is amazing. I'm gonna play it now. Beautiful. I really like this one. So the interesting thing about this project was that so we obviously helped the brand to launch their new premium range of products, but there was a lot of ideas that we needed to communicate during this during the production of this project. So one of them was like, how do you make a watch being born from like a very zen atmosphere, something that is so calm, but it also mimics the movement of the hand, and like how do you make a film based on feelings? So we decided that if we're gonna make something, if we're gonna dive into abstraction, we should do, and if we're going to use CGI, we'd better do something that hasn't been seen before, something that's impossible, something that can push the limits of imagination and creativity, which is basically like how a watch is born from like liquid, which is really interesting because with that you get a lot of like creative thinking and a lot of like abstract thinking as well, and like trying to imagine like what Zen means, because what does Zen mean actually? How do you show that in pretty images? How do you provoke this feeling in the audience as well? How do you communicate that the product is related to this in some ways? So it was quite a lot of questions for us as well, and we had to explore those bits and pieces. What does Zen mean? How do you create those liquids, and how do you make it look like very calm and but also dynamic in the same time? So basically what the team was doing is, the design team were doing the previs and cameras in Cinema 4D, because it's very easy to move things around. I'm sorry, I'm just ruining stuff around. To move things around and like to make those like camera movements and simulations quickly. So while the team was doing the Cinema 4D, exploring like different aspects of the project, the 3D team was modeling actually the watch. And we had the data from the client, but we obviously, if we wanted to do those morphs and stuff, we had to remodel stuff. So we had to like create our own version of it. So yeah, it was quite a lot of collaboration, because we were also at the same time exploring Phoenix and how do you do liquid simulations in there, and how do you actually light stuff, and also working on the creative. So everything was happening simultaneously, and we had to have everyday catch-ups and like seeing how things are going, and like having all those creative iterations as well set up on the table, discussed, moving forward with something or not moving forward. So it was like quite a lot of collaborative work within the team as well. So this is how the scene looked at the end in Max. It doesn't look very complicated, but it's also kind of complicated in a way, because you have the mountains that had to be in exactly a certain way, then you have the water that had to behave in a certain way, then you have like the lighting had to come in a certain way to provoke those feelings. Everything that we did was kind of very, very crafted, and it's all the projects we basically do are bespoke, so everything is kind of very orientated towards what the client wants to communicate, but also we try to put our own vision, our own unique voice into everything we do. So with this project, the interesting thing was like, okay, what does Zen mean? We need mountains, we need water, we need, you know, something to make it look like very calm and very tranquil, but also like very just to provoke the feelings of like being a place that you can meditate maybe. So we originally created those mountains, and they were quite tall and quite big, and we were like quite excited for them. But when we render them, they look very like dramatic and something that you can almost see in the VFX production rather than something in a like more of a calming environment and like atmosphere. So we had the approach to like scale them down, even though it's not relevant. Like in terms of scale, we always try to work bang on scale and like have everything completely like top notch, very correct in terms of 3D and how we set our scenes. So basically for this one, we had to like scale them down, cheat a little bit, and then get the feeling of like, oh, there is this peaceful environment, but you don't see the mountains straight away when you look at the hero, which is the watch and coming out of the water. Also, another aspect was like, oh, why is actually water? Like, what does the water represent, and why is the watch coming from the water and forming out of the water? Well, it was because of the ripple glass and like the whole thing that the water is kind of. Also, it's waterproofed, but it's like the water gives you this kind of a sense of like calm, and if you have it like in a very smooth and crafted way. So we kind of did a couple of experiments with water simulation done in Phoenix, and a couple of things done in Cinema 4D with different deformers and fluid simulation, and what else did we do? Oh yeah, anti-gravity, like to have this kind of a drop coming, forming the geometry. So at the end, we actually used displacement and to be able to actually scope on top and like make it actually more crafted, because with simulation, it's not always the case that you can really craft your simulation. It's more like, oh yeah, it's really cool, it's hyper realistic, but we actually wanted something that we can put our own vision into. Another interesting aspect of this project was the light ring. So we explored different possibilities of like creating this light ring, and why do you have the light ring? So basically it's like it represents, so it's rose gold, so represent the detail on the side of the watch, how it's like it has this rose gold detail, but it's also like it's a watch, so it's a light, so it's related to a light. So you know, we wanted to like make the watch stand out by having this ring around it, but it also so it's symbolic with like the detail on the watch. So we had like a lot of discussions in the studio. We also like had a lot of creative development of the ring. And a funny story is that when we were in production meeting with the client and we showed the light ring for the first time, they didn't comment, they didn't say anything about it. They was just quiet. So we thought, oh, maybe they don't like it. So we removed it. And then next week, when we had another production meeting, they were like, "Oh, but where is the light ring? I loved it." So we had to get it back in the scene, and it was like, yeah, this is interesting, because sometimes you don't know if the creative vision that you have is correct until you like actually know from the client that yes, it's correct, it is the right way. So we started development of the light ring, and it was done by basically, it's a light around the watch wrapped on like a big geometry that has a light with a fall off on the light, just to have this glowing, and behind like this fall off as well, which is really nice and so beautiful. And you can see some of the setups in here and how it's actually lit. So this big light that goes around is basically the light with the gradient on top, so you can get this like halo glow and effect wrapped around the geometry. And you can see, oh, sorry, I just wanted to show you, yeah, those bits, really beautiful really beautiful reflection on the geometry of those like lights forming and morphing around the ring. Yeah, another thing that I wanted to mention was like creating this, like how is actually the watch forming and morphing into like its final shape. We had like stages of the geometry. That is, one is just the hole, and then there is the book that's coming up, that is half size, and then it grows, and then it grows. So all those stages of the geometry were actually morphed together to get this fluid, very smooth motion of the animation, which is really, really interesting, and actually helps to get like this very liquidy feeling. And it looks like it's forming from something that's also related to the water as well. And this is a quick video we produced for just to illustrate how we approach our animation projects in terms of the stages we do, the stages we go through, having animatics, storyboards, first draft renders. Oh, does it look good? Does it not look good? You have the discussion. You have all those creative like discussions in the studio. Do we like it? Do we not like it? So that was a very quick making of, but it also can illustrate how we approach our projects, so from storyboard animatics to previs to first draft of renders, and then comments, and then we get and like developed and crafted it more and more and more. Another interesting thing is like compositing wise and post-production wise, we do like to render different passes, of course, but also we like to do different live selects, which really helps when you have like such a complex kind of environment to like, we can tweak this bit, or we can tweak this bit a little bit and like enhance the watch, but come down the mountains. And having all those light selects was pretty useful. And also having the ring rendered separately, and then the reflection rendered separately, and then the watch rendered separately with the reflection. So it was quite nice to be flexible to do all those things, and then in post-production to kind of play around with them. And also the fog and the fog and the mist were done in nuke with noise, so it kind of adds a bit more of that like zen, that kind of really calming atmosphere around you. So yeah, I think I am moving into the sections called From the Heart, which is basically our workshop projects. And I want to mention that because I believe that I think we all believe, Ink believe, that from those projects are the great ideas are born from those projects. And also with projects like this, we are able to actually have being approached from clients as well. So as I said, Riven, for example, the project I mentioned with the configurator, came in the studio because of one of our most significant workshop project, which is the plane bodies, like the really beautiful white cars. And a lot of other projects actually came on board because the client has actually seen the work we do as a workshop work. So this is kind of expressing our own unique voice and our own unique style and vision for the work that comes to the studio. And yeah, this is one of the recent ones. This is an insane, amazing engine. It came actually from the latest work, our plane bodies. It had, I don't have them on the presentation, but they have like this, it's cut out in there and you can see the engine. So the guys in the studio are like, oh, okay, the engine looks quite cool actually by itself. So why don't we have this as a standalone piece and actually develop it more and more? And as you can see here, they went really into details, creating all those bits and pieces, and everything was modeled in the studio, and everything is completely crafted by us. And the 3D team was like doing an amazing job lighting it and texturing every single bit with like the correct numbers on the labels, correct wires, and everything was just like has an insane level of details. And now we also have them as prints, which is amazing. And you can see like the yellow numbers, they're all different, they're all very accurate. Like everything we're passionate about is we really crafted to the end, and we are really striving for excellence in everything we do, which I think is amazing, and it's super inspiring, because being surrounded by people who are actually so much into like it needs to be excellent, so it's good because you push yourself to be better every single day. Yes, this is how it looks as a wireframe. Quite amazing. And the last project I wanted to share with you was our Brown project, which is basically a studio project that started as a passion project from the design team, and it was actually seen by Brown, and at the end we actually got commissioned. So this is another example by doing something with passion. It can actually pay off and can be a commercial work at the end of the day. So Brown was an interesting one because the guys decided just to set the challenge and do those really cool and playful animations, but very graphical at the same time. I'm going to show you a video in a second. So it was basically all inspired by the graphical look of the Brown product, and also dioramas. We have the book here, and like all the design, the product design, it's amazing, so graphical, very simple, but also the fact that everyone can relate to Brown as a brand, and it's kind of meaningful, and people recognize that and can relate to that. It was also good because it's also quite simple in terms of shapes, but it's also giving you the opportunity to explore this animation quite a lot, because it has those really cool graphical details on every product. So one of the first animations I'm going to show you is this. And my favorite bit is basically the speaker and how that is forming in like the beautiful, elegant movement of the lines of the wires around it. And it's just so nice. And it's exactly as I said, inspired by the graphical look of the product. But it's also very interesting because the team didn't really know what they were doing. They didn't have a clear brief. It basically was a challenge for both creativity and technical skills, which is really nice because you learn how to do stuff, and you also produce cool work, and you really challenge your creative vision and your creative thinking to be sharp and ready to go on whatever brief comes to the studio. So everything they've done was done just by their imagination, which is amazing. And they didn't have a brief or anything, they just made it up. It's interesting how it was done as well, because basically we are now using two different softwares in the company, which is like, it's not two, even more than two, but the main two softwares are now Cinema 4D and 3ds Max. And Cinema is quite powerful in terms of creating those really nice procedural movements, animations, using deformers and like different kind of modifiers, which is really useful when you want to create something that is like quite linear, quite graphical looking, quite exciting in terms of like movement. And basically it's when you set it up, when you break it down to like how is this made, it's actually quite simple, but the tricky bit is like knowing all those things, what they do, but also combining them in a way that actually at the end you have something really, really beautiful, not something like super random and like modifiers and wires here and there. It's more like knowing how to use the software in a creative way, and knowing how those things would work out together. So for example, here on the first bottom left image, you can see that all those wires are laid out in a very graphical, like linear way, and then we have a modifier on top that actually cuts them out, and then we have a displacer on top that when you go with the effector, the linear effector, it's like the displacement is like triggered, and you have those kind of waves and almost like wrinkles around the geometry of the wire. So it's kind of very, very cool how you're trying to use those those just simple but not that simple ways to animate something so so simple as a geometry, but also making it look exciting and making it look elegant and interesting for the viewer. I'm going to show you some of them. There you go. Some of the shots didn't make it actually to the film, but I think they're still really beautiful. And yeah, this is, you can see here in those images how like the displacement are actually going on the wires and like how they're actually, they just, the vertices are, the height of the vertices is basically modified. And then with a effector on top, you just make those linear movement like very, very, very smoothly and very nicely and very elegant. Yeah, another one. On this one, it was basically again effector that was modifying the height of the geometry, and it goes up and creates this like kind of a wave effect, which is like, I really, really like this one. And then, I keep on skipping. And then we have there is something in cinema called spline mask that basically you can have a spline and you can modify it. You make a geometry by extruding it, which is, yeah, pretty simple, but then the masks can interact with each other. The splines can interact with each other to create those beautiful shapes. And if you then animate them, which is quite easy to do, you can create those very, very graphical, but also quite interesting in terms of like motion graphics animations, which is really nice. And I think it's one of our last, projects, brown projects. I'm gonna play it as well. This was again another animation coming from the design team. They do very like playful and kind of very cool animations to explore like different areas that they are curious into, especially like when we have the time to do so. It's always like a good challenge and kind of a really quick challenge for them, for the studio, to like, oh, what can we do with like X particles, for example. The liquid was done that way, or like how can we model quicker. Like for this, for example, what I wanted to mention here was that this geometry of the mixer is actually done by Volume Builder. And what this Volume Builder does is basically it does you can do modeling super procedurally. Nothing is done by hand. Nothing is polymodeled here. Everything is like super procedural. You just join different shapes of geometry together, and it does all those Boolean actions. And you can cut stuff in the geometry super quickly. You can then add stuff, but then when you move the different parts, they still stick together and then still have pretty decent topology, I would say. You obviously have to make the mesh quite dense in terms of like polys, but if you want to get something in less than an hour, then this is the way. And I think it's pretty amazing, because obviously we only move the camera here, so we don't really, and the scene is like basically just one piece of, one object, so you don't have like a very complex scene around you to make the scene super heavy. So you can have the luxury to actually make the mesh as dense as you want, create those beautiful movements around it, and then add the simulation on top. And yeah, it's just a very quick process. And these are kind of the steps of like adding the geometry together, and then adding more of it, and adding more of it, and then cutting those bits of the details on the side. And then that's the final bit, the final one that you can see on the bottom right. this is again cool gifts to just see the geometry and like see how much detail you can get for like a really decent amount of time. And on the left you can see how everything in the model is actually built from splines, from cylinders, from like simple shapes, but then you achieve something that is pretty decent in terms of how it looks, and you can animate it straight away. So basically it's like it's a super quick process, especially when it's like an internal project and we don't have much time to do these. So when we do them, we have to be as efficient as possible. And this is the last one, which I really like. So again, here, the hairdryer, quite symbolic in terms of shapes. It was done the exactly same way, same amount of like, the modeling was done the same way. It was done, I think the whole project was completed in less than a week, where the guys have, actually it was our motion graphic designer, Kieran, he was having that as other commercial projects. So that was kind of a side projects in the work time. So basically it was done super quickly, super efficiently, and it's super nice. And I think the importance of having those projects in the studio is quite big, because then we can improve and evolve, and it provokes us, our creative thinking and creative vision is challenged as well. So I'm about to wrap up, but I wanted to show you something that it's quite new, our latest internal projects, like a workshop project. And what is this? It's something that we haven't released yet, but it's just a teaser for you and for the audience to enjoy. So this is coming, this is our latest project, and this is a tiny bit of a teaser for it. And it's something that is quite special in the studio. It's very, very much from our hearts. It's crafted. It's a lot of thinking has been done. A lot of talking and working has been done, and we're very excited to release it soon. So we'll keep you posted on social media. And I also wanted to say that I hope you really enjoyed the presentation, because I really enjoyed doing it. And I wanted to thank you again, everyone, for watching, and also Fabio and Jason for inviting me. But I wanted to say that if you are a studio, or if you are a student, or if you're an individual, or if you just like what we do and you want to collaborate with us, get in touch, and we will make sure that we speak to you. Also share, join us on social media, and follow us on Instagram and Behance. We're everywhere. And I wanted to say happy holidays to everyone, and I really hope you enjoyed it, and say thank you. And maybe I should.
Yeah, you can unshare your screen now.
Stop sharing my screen.
Perfect.
Ioanna, this was beautiful. It was inspiring. It was amazing. And
did you like it?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
thank you so much for that.
And you're always like, I don't think that you realize it, you bring so much excitement to
because I am very excited.
Yeah, but that's the thing, I remember the first time that I was having a conversation with you when we met in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
And then when we interviewed you, Do you remember there was this year gap that you were like, oh, I'm gonna be speaking one day at the conference, and then you did?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's it's quite insane. It's so exciting when you think about back in the days. It was like actually not back in the days. It was 2 years ago.
Yeah. In my old days, when I first started, 1 year ago. No, but
Yeah.
you know, people like you, they really motivate, especially the newcomers, to wanna push themselves and do better, right?
Yeah, I
You,
was thinking exactly that when you guys invited me to do the presentation, I was like, oh, but why would people want to listen to me? And then I was like, well, I would love for my personal experience to see someone that I can really relate to. So I was thinking like I would do that for people who are like me, who are are kind of very young in this industry and like who joined not ages ago. And yeah, it's nice. It's nice to do it for everyone. Yeah, I really hope
Joanna,
that
I wanna,
people enjoyed it, and
I really
I
wanna
kind of
thank you.
share the passion that we have in the studio, because everything I say is as it is. We really like the work we do. We really like the unique voice and the unique style that we have, and we can carry across all the aspects of all the work we do, and all the aspects of like either it's automotive, or either it's branding and like design, production. It's whatever it is, we kind of make it ours in a way, and we put a bit of ourselves in the work we do, which I think is quite special. And yeah, and this is why I really like being here.
This is one of the things that I really like about Ink,
Oh, I lost you.
is that
Hold
passion.
on, she lost us. Hold on, she said.
Oh,
You're very quiet.
Oh,
are we quiet on the monitor?
no, it
seems
the
like we're
sound is
right.
fine.
Anyway,
Or maybe it's me again. Can you talk?
yeah. Anyway, what I wanted to say is that that passion transpires, right?
I hope so.
You see it in the work, and that's why I really like Ink.
Yeah, thank you. I really hope so, because it's important. At least for me, it's very important that we keep inspired, and this is what makes us move forward, is keeping that inspiration and keeping that motivation, and also like challenging ourselves. And I think this is like the formula that we have here to keep on doing what we do. Yeah.
There are a couple of questions.
Okay, but I
Cristian?
can't hear you really well.
Oh, you can't hear me at all?
Maybe I don't. Maybe it's. Okay, let me just do one thing, because I think my headphones are still connected.
Do you want
Yeah,
us to speak?
Someone would say that I don't do anything related to technology. Yeah, I don't think it's muted. No,
I
it should be all good here.
I think people from home, they can hear us fine, right?
Yes, our audio is fine.
They can hear you fine.
Yeah. And also they can hear you fine.
Oh, good. Now I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So someone asked, Cristian actually from Atelier Crilo, who was presenting earlier, he said he loved the bloated motors project, and
Yeah.
he wanted to know if you have it in mind to do it with Italian cars. Like the 500.
We have so much fun with that. We wanted to do French, we want to do Italian,
Yeah.
we want to do. I really want to push for doing like like Eastern European cars as well. We have so much to do with that, because there's so much fun as well. Oh, you inflate the car, yay! It's kind of unusual as well.
I swear to God, I'll come to London, I'll let myself get 3D scanned, and then you can do it with me. Then I'll be going
It's
around
actually
like...
quite cool, Yeah, I would love to try that.
And Nigel also asked, what's the resolution that you render the car stills, the still images of the cars? What resolution?
Which cars? Oh, they're massive. We go mental with resolution, because it's the bigger the better. So I don't know exactly, but we go way like 9-10K, and then apparently post-production team can be really happy, because they really like high-res stuff.
Ioanna, have you tried Blender?
No, but I know you have tried Blender.
I'm sorry. I had to say that. Okay. Listen, Jason, is there something else that you want to add?
No, I mean, I would just add that are so thankful that you would take the time out and present. Even though you thought no one wanted to listen to you, I think that's not true. And I think everyone in the comments seemed to be very impressed with the work and with your presentation.
Thank you. Means a lot.
And I guess we are done now.
Yeah,
with this
again, I want to say thank you. I want to take the chance also to wish. I want to laugh because I'm looking at Cristian holding the screen. It's the funniest thing. I cannot show it to you, but it's Cristian's
holding. There you are.
It's all right.
This is how we do the technical stuff here.
We're still a little bit perfecting the way we do things. But anyway, I want to thank you for everything. I want to thank those who are watching from home for the fact that, they come in, they tune in, and they watch our stuff. And we know how important it is for people to give us their time. And so we're very grateful for that. I hope that at least we were entertaining, at least we were able to add a little bit of value to your life as a artist, as a content creator.
Next time we'll actually rent the space that's behind us.
We'll go to a proper...
The place looks great, guys.
We'll rent a castle.
You've done a great job.
Okay.
Also, the jumper's top notch.
This is a lie. Can you remove the key?
Yeah. Oh, maybe. Yes.
Let's show people where we're living.
How did I do that before? I don't even remember. Hold on. We're gonna try this, so I can turn us on top. That's not a good idea. Here we go.
No, actually, hold on. Jason, no, sorry.
There we go.
Yeah.
So we're
living in a green
situation.
screen. The thing is that, okay, let's do it here so that people can see.
Well, Ioanna can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not. Oh yes, yeah.
We just ruined
we live in a green screen.
Illusion.
That's where we are. But the fireplace is real.
It's quite creative, I would say. Like, you've put a lot of effort getting it to that point. It's really good.
Of course, and not to mention the ugly sweater.
No, they're beautiful. Yeah. I know they're made of plastic, so that's good.
Yeah, it's like, I could charge a Tesla with every 10 steps.
It's a lot of static.
When we congratulate or high-five each other, it's always like a thunder.
No, actually, one day hopefully we can run the whole system on the electricity created by the sweaters.
We'll be green
you nailed
power.
it, guys.
So everybody seems so happy and they're having a good time. I'm really happy about that.
Merry Christmas, guys. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Get a drink
Happy
now.
Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah, Monica. This is the last show of the year.
It is. And we're going to be back, of course, next year with some really cool challenges and other stuff that we're coming up with. So make sure to subscribe and check out the website. Follow us everywhere.
Like this video if you like the content that we have given you. And of course,
like the video.
If you did not have the chance to catch up on the shows yesterday and the day before, go and do that. The videos will be available forever on our channel. We are very happy that we had the chance to spend a little bit of time together and wish each other happy holiday.
And we look forward to a better year next year.
2021 will be our year.
That's going to be our year for sure. Hopefully it's going to be everyone's year. But I think we'll get there. It's going to get better.
Microsoft will buy Blender and it will be available it will run in PowerPoint.
It'll run in MS Paint. You can run Blender in MS Paint.
That would be. All right, guys. Good night. Thanks a lot for watching. So, and
Ioanna, just hold on. We'll talk to you in just a second, okay?
Okay. I just want to say thank you again, guys. You're amazing. It's really inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you for doing
Thank you for being here.
And thank you, guys, and see you in 2021.
Bye.
Bye.
That's not right. Hold on. Here we go.